And now, Knock 2 Studios presents Common Censored.
A democracy is a political system in which the people periodically, by majority vote at the polls, select their rulers. The rulers then have absolute power to make whatever laws they please by majority vote among themselves. In a constitutional republic, the people also, by majority vote at the polls, select rulers, who make laws by majority vote among themselves. But the rulers cannot make any laws they please because the Constitution severely restricts their lawmaking power. The ideal of a democracy is universal equality. The ideal of a constitutional republic is individual liberty. In this century, great strides have been made toward the goal of subverting our republic and transforming it into a democracy. The foremost tactic of the subverters is subversion of language. By calling America a democracy until people thoughtlessly accept and use the term, totalitarians have obscured the real meaning of American principles of government. Writers of the Constitution were anxious to safeguard liberty against dictatorship, monarchy they called it. But their chief anxiety was to protect the country against democracy. Edmund Randolph, delegate to the Constitutional Convention from Virginia, said the general object of the convention was to provide a cure for the follies and fury of democracy. Elbridge Gerry and Roger Sherman, delegates from Massachusetts and Connecticut, urged the Constitutional Convention to create a system to eliminate the evils that flow from the excess of democracy. Alexander Hamilton, delegate from New York, said, "We are now forming a Republican government. Real liberty is not found in democracy. If we incline too much to democracy, we shall soon shoot into a monarchy." John Adams, one of the giants of the American Revolutionary period, said, "Democracy will envy all, contend with all, endeavor to pull down all. And when by chance it happens to get the upper hand for a short time, democracy will be revengeful, bloody, and cruel." America was founded not as a democracy, but as a constitutional republic. We pledge allegiance to the republic, for which our flag stands, not to a democracy. The Constitution requires a republican form of government for all states, but does not mention democracy, and neither does the Declaration of Independence or the Bill of Rights. Woman asked him what kind of government the convention had given America, and Franklin replied, "A republic, if you can keep it." Very old and very wise, Franklin saw through the mists of time to the day when Americans might trade their freedom in a constitutional republic for the promise of government guaranteed equality and security in a democracy. And beyond that, to the day when democracy inevitably degenerates into dictatorship, guaranteeing nothing but poverty and serfdom for the people it robs and rules.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Common Censored. Thanks for being here, all of you censored commoners. This is episode 192 with all kinds of interesting information to discuss today. The reports that the FBI have been staging neo-Nazi rallies in the U.S. We've got info that Trump is preparing to run against Kamala this fall, as CNN prepares to fire hundreds of staff members. So some good news there. The SAVE Act just passed the House as well. So that's good news, although it'll probably get shut down in the Senate, considering basically all of the senators voted against it in favor of allowing illegals to vote in the elections. Completely insane. That and a lot more to come. Make sure to join us Monday through Friday, 6:30-ish Eastern Time, as we cover all the crazy clown world clusterfuck chaos on Common Censored. Use hashtag Common Censored when you share the show on X, where you can find us at Lord Sterling _ since they yeeted _ Common Censored. And I tried to appeal it again. Sent information, every time they're like, reply to this email with a reason why you think you should be unbanned. So I do. And then they send me the same automated reply saying you didn't provide evidence that you own the account. It's like I'm messaging you from the account. I don't know how to get around this. It's set up for failure, unfortunately. Shout out and thank you to all of our new followers over on Rumble. Fastman72, Mabs55, Michelle S10, JRSPIV22, Lore Tom 123, OC Classy Lassie, Metro Beats ZZ, Metro Beat ZZ, Rumble George, Gaffer 1, Spunky Poo 590 makes me think of my old dog named Spunky. He was a good boy. He died 2 weeks short of his 17th birthday. Pretty badass little Cairn Terrier. He was the coolest, man. Carrie Fusel, Anita Raya, Raven Roxy 1971, T Block 11, Sin Lu Wu, Sly Dog 1, Fluffy 56, Shakespeare, Fugono, Texas Regatta Girl. Thank you all for joining us. Appreciate you giving me the chance to earn your viewership. Make sure to hit that notification bell so you'll be notified every day when we go live. We're starting early today, guys, as you all know. Links to all of the content, articles, videos, and everything we discuss will be down in the description right after the video ends, along with timestamps courtesy of Mama Mac. So if you're watching this later on and you need to maximize the efficiency of your time and attention, links will be down in the description showing all the topics we discuss, plus timestamps so you can jump right in the video to the topics that interest you. Thanks again for being here. I appreciate you guys and appreciate Mama Mac for adding timestamps. Check out alplama.com to support Mama Mac and fam with natural, they provide natural tinctures as remedies for any of the various ailments you may be suffering from. Oh no, I ended a sentence in a preposition. You know I'm not supposed to do that. Damn it.
You are a federal agent. You represent the United States government. Never end a sentence with a preposition.
I'm sorry. They also have delicious herbal teas, which you can check out. Serenity, Tranquility, lots of good stuff over there at alplama.com, ALPLAMA.com. Alplama, yuck, tastes bad, but so good for you. Thanks, Mama Mac. Appreciate you. And if you want to support the broadcast directly, you can head on over to our link tree where you can find links to our merch, links to pick up our books, Common Sense First Edition Revived, a facsimile replica of a January 1776 edition of Thomas Paine's magnum opus that galvanized the 13 colonies against British tyranny. We also have the redacted version, which is the ultimate free speech First Amendment coffee table gag book. Good conversation starter. It's also just hilarious to pick up a book that you can't actually read. Anybody that supports the show, whether it's subscribing monthly via Subscribestar or Locals, or hitting that big, beautiful join button right beneath the broadcast window, will automatically be entered into our contest to win copies of those books, as well as people who decide to tip via Cash App, Venmo, Google Pay, or Rumble Rant will read Rumble Rants throughout the podcast, if anybody is so inclined to make your voice heard as well. Let's see, what do we got next? Let's do the disclaimer. Disclaimer. Views expressed on Common Censored are only opinions. Assume everything we say is false and research for yourself. We're not giving medical, legal, or financial advice. The only advice we are giving is think for yourself. Question authority. Think for yourself. Question authority. I love that. Sorry. All right, let's get started. What do we got first on the list today? I like that intro video explaining democracy and how it's been used and weaponized to make the people think that Congress can just vote for anything. It's exactly what I've been saying, so I was kind of excited to see somebody articulate it in a more effective manner than I have been able to do. So let's jump over to Gateway Pundit to start the show, as we now are learning that the SAVE Act has passed the House 221 to 198. Almost every Democrat voted to, quote, protect the ability of illegals to vote in the federal elections. So fortunately, this passed the House, but I'm not confident that it will pass the Senate. Anybody that votes against this is a traitor, straight up. You're allowing, you're in favor of letting people just come in and vote to overthrow, to override the power and influence of the American people. It's messed up. The SAVE Act, which requires proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections, passed the House 221 to 198 earlier today. Nearly every Democrat lawmaker voted to protect the ability of illegals to vote in federal elections. This is after Joe Biden flooded the U.S. with more than 15 million illegal aliens. Maybe it wouldn't have been such a big deal if the borders were closed. But no, this is a major topic with the borders wide open, with them flying people from other countries directly into our country to screw us all. It's just madness that anybody would vote for this at all. The White House issued a statement on Monday condemning the bill that requires proof of citizenship when registering to vote. We played videos yesterday where all you got to do is just check a box saying, yeah, I'm a citizen, and they don't even look into it. And registering people for driver's licenses, which they shouldn't be getting considering they're not even supposed to be here. And they're automatically registered to vote as well, again, without having to provide any proof of citizenship. So they're, on one hand, claiming that, oh, you can't vote in federal elections if you're not a citizen. And then on the other hand, just saying, yeah, just check this box and we won't even verify if you're a citizen or not. So it's completely ridiculous. The bill amends the National Voter Registration Act of 1993 to require voters to show documentary proof of United States citizenship. Under current law, states can only require proof of citizenship to vote in local and state elections. Insane. Gateway Pundit previously reported on Democrats' opposition to the bill and Minority Whip Catherine Clark's efforts to urge Democrats to vote no on the bill this week. Clark dishonestly claimed the new law would, quote, prevent Americans from registering to vote with their driver's license alone and would make a passport the only acceptable standalone form of identification, which is complete BS. The bill outlines 5 acceptable forms of identification to prove citizenship. Unfortunately, the bill is likely dead on arrival in the Senate, and Joe Biden would veto the measure as they proclaimed the other day, even if it did pass the Senate. The White House issued the following statement. The administration strongly opposes H.R. 8281, the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. It is already illegal for non-citizens to vote in federal elections. It is a federal crime, punishable by prison and fines. So then what's the problem with making sure that they're not actually illegals? If it's already illegal, then it shouldn't be a problem, just to clarify and make sure, right? So, to double speak out of the mouths of the White House. The alleged justification for this bill is based on easily disproven falsehoods. No, that statement is an easily disproven falsehood in massive Orwellian fashion. Additionally, making a false claim of citizenship or unlawfully voting in an election is punishable by removal from the United States and a permanent bar to admission. But they already said they're not even going to check when you register. So how are you even going to find this out and punish people? States already have effective safeguards in place to verify voters' eligibility and maintain the accuracy of voter rolls, not like any of them do it. This bill would do nothing to safeguard elections, but would make it much harder for all eligible Americans to register to vote and increase the risk that eligible voters are purged from the voter rolls. That's fine. Purge everybody that doesn't prove they're a citizen. Fine with me. It shouldn't be just super easy to vote. You should have to prove you're a citizen. We don't want a bunch of illegals voting, a bunch of uninformed people voting, a bunch of people who aren't willing to step up to the plate and prove that they're citizens to vote. The evidence is clear, continuing, that the current laws to prevent non-citizen voting are working as intended. Wow, that's so fake, such a lie. It is extraordinarily rare for non-citizens to break the law by voting in federal elections. Well, considering you guys said you don't even check, how would you know that? How would you know it's extraordinarily rare if you're not verifying anybody's identity? The president has been clear. It sounds like it's written by cringe John Pierre, who's always saying, we're being so clear. We've been clear. Joe Biden's been clear. We're being clear about this. He will continue to fighting to protect Americans' sacred right to vote in free, fair, and secure elections, including by calling on Congress to pass the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and the Freedom to Vote Act. If House Republicans really want to do something about securing our border and fixing our broken immigration system, they should vote on the border deal that the president negotiated with a bipartisan group of senators. This would provide immigration officials the resources they need to do their jobs and be the toughest and fairest set of reforms to secure the border that we've seen in decades. Except their jobs, in this case, are just processing people and letting them enter the country. So this wouldn't do anything to fight illegal immigration or to prevent illegals from voting. So we've got it passed in the House, but it's DOA in the Senate. And even if it were to pass the Senate, Biden would still veto it anyway, because he's a total unmitigated scumbag. Let's hop over to InfoWars next to check out the next topic. At Real Alex Jones posting this on X. Report exposes FBI program to stage neo-Nazi rallies in the U.S. He links to the InfoWars article, where we will stop next. Ooh, save up to 60% on top products today. Nitric Boost, opening up your veins. Good stuff. Report exposes FBI program to stage neo-Nazi rallies in the U.S. by Cassie B. over at Natural News. The report claims Nazi rallies organized by the FBI are what eventually paved the way for a bigger operation known as Primitive Affliction that targeted right-wing groups, complete with bomb makers, rogue undercover agents, and a motorcycle front group. The Orlando neo-Nazi rally that grabbed headlines in 2006 was organized by the FBI, a new report shows, and it was part of a broader program that organized similar rallies throughout the nation, even though the Bureau knew that they would cause more people to join the movement. The report, which we'll check out in a sec, claims the Nazi rallies organized by the FBI are what eventually paved the way for a bigger operation known as Primitive Affliction, targeted right-wing groups complete with bomb makers, rogue undercover agents, and a motorcycle front group. Higher-ups at the Bureau were well aware of the operation, including former director Robert Mueller, or Mueller, however you want to pronounce it, documents studied by journalist Ken Silva of Headline USA show. They explain how when the FBI source in charge of organizing the 2006 neo-Nazi rally in Orlando, David Gletty, had his cover blown, his handler denied that he organized the rally on several occasions, admitting only that he marched in it while insisting he didn't lead it. However, Gletty himself said that he did organize it at the behest of the FBI, both in order to raise Gletty's profile within the neo-Nazi circles and to facilitate surveillance by the FBI of rally attendees. So honeypots, attracting people to the rallies so that then they know who to keep their eyes on. Potential patsies for weaponization, I imagine, considering that there are bomb makers and things involved. They want to organize groups to orchestrate false flag attacks to then blame on MAGA. And this is the season. We're in false flag season right now. So nobody go to these things. According to Gletty, this was part of the FBI's modus operandi at the time, the MO, their standard operating procedure, staging similar rallies throughout the U.S. to raise the profile of individual informants and develop a database of Nazis they could track. I like when Robert Barnes says Nazis, he says Nazis. Nazis they could attract. They could track. Other members of the National Socialist Movement, NSM, have corroborated claims that the FBI staged neo-Nazi rallies in the mid-2000s. One of them is Bill White, who claims that the FBI sponsored a violent 2005 rally held in Toledo. This is classic COINTELPRO, counterintelligence provocateurism, where they organize something, they have people in there that work for them to cause violence, which then everybody else takes the blame for it. It's exactly what we saw happen on J6. We should have seen it coming a mile away, but we were so caught up in the moment, and it had been so long since we all reviewed those old Alex Jones documentaries about this COINTELPRO and everything that, that we just walked right into the trap, unfortunately, on J6.
It's a trap!
It was indeed a trap. In a sworn declaration, he stated, quote, in October 2005, FBI confidential human source Jeff Shope asked me to go to Toledo, Ohio to help organize a, quote, march against black crime by what were supposed to be, quote, local residents, but were really federal confidential human sources. His statement was referring to Jeff Schoep, or Shep, however you pronounce that, who was the leader of the National Socialist movement from the 1990s until not long after the Charlottesville rally in 2017. Although there is no evidence definitively showing that Schoep served as a full-fledged FBI informant while heading the movement, FBI records show that he did speak to agents on at least one occasion, and he has been accused by many other neo-Nazis of working with the FBI. Adding fuel to the fire is the fact he now openly works as a, quote, reformed Nazi alongside groups sponsored by the FBI and other law enforcement agencies. FBI let neo-Nazis and left-wing counter-protesters clash. White also said that the rally in Toledo followed a similar formula to the one in Charlottesville, with local police and the FBI letting neo-Nazis and left-wing counter-protesters clash instead of making efforts to keep them apart. He explained, on the day of the march, the Toledo police and the FBI occupied a nearby parking lot and ordered myself and the National Socialist Movement to use another parking lot. I and a small team from the NSM arrived before the communists to secure the location. No police were present at this time. About an hour later, police began to deploy and directed National Socialist Movement members to enter their parking lot by driving through the mob. This started problems. After the police line formed, the mob then attacked the police, not us, he added. A report by the FBI about the Toledo rally tells almost an identical story, although it conveniently leaves out the fact that law enforcement didn't keep the opposing groups apart. Quote, local residents and counter-demonstrators continued with the clash and with the police, looting a store and setting fire to a local bar. This rally and riot and the attendant media coverage for the National Socialist Movement was deemed a great success by the majority of the white supremacy movement, the report added. However, one of the most damning parts of the report was the conclusion. National Socialist Movement reported increased fundraising and increased applications for membership immediately following these events. So it's kind of crazy how you got Christopher Wray going out there giving speeches to the public saying, Wray, the FBI director, saying white supremacy is the number one threat domestically in America. Well, it turns out seemingly that the FBI was doing this, was building the ranks of the white supremacists and artificially creating a movement that otherwise would not exist. In other words, whether the FBI was fully responsible for staging the Toledo rally or not, it was well aware that such events led to jumps in the number of neo-Nazis in the U.S. when it enlisted Galetti to organize the one in Orlando a year later. According to White, the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force was responsible for arranging violent counter-demonstrations against neo-Nazi rallies via other informants. He said that, quote, the federal government was using the rallies to make it appear as if there was a domestic terror threat when no such threat existed. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. They built the movement. They know exactly what they're doing. They're setting up MAGA, trying to lump us all in with these guys. It's a giant setup. It's a trap. It's a honeypot. The FBI is fomenting the threat that they're claiming exists. Here's the article from Headline USA covering it. Exclusive: The Hidden History of Robert Mueller's Right-Wing Terror Factory, Part 1. Interviews and newly unearthed records reveal FBI program to stage Nazi rallies. So these links will be in the description after the broadcast finishes if you guys want to dive a little bit deeper in. But for now, let's jump over to our next topic. A veiled threat from Saudi Arabia against the G7. Saudis warned G7 over Russia with debt sale threat. Warning made to EU states, said people familiar with the matter. The move underscores Saudi Arabia's growing diplomatic clout. Why am I not able to read this all of a sudden? Basically, Saudi Arabia is threatening the G7, and so that's not good. Just more escalation. Let me see if I can get this on archive to go more in depth. I was able to see it on my other device. In the meantime, let's check out a couple minutes of this video from Man in America last night. about an alleged leaked CCP speech that revealed a plan to murder 100 million Americans.
To have you all here tonight, coming to you live from the beautiful country of America. So, as we have tried to understand the dynamics of this war, that I think most of you that are watching, I'm assuming, have realized that there is a war going on. It's not necessarily World War III, it's something much bigger. It's a war on humanity. It is a war from the small group of individuals and powerful people, and we'll get into who or what they might be, against us, we the people. And there's been a lot of speculation against, okay, who is it we're up against? Is it the bankers? Is it the Jews? Is it the Chinese? Is it the Russians? Is it our own government? And I can tell you from my own research, it's not
It's all
easy
of
to
them.
pinpoint exactly who it goes to, because if you trace throughout history, you can see that there's been a massive power play. There has been a battles at that level, right? It's not just that there's this one central enemy that controls everything. Actually, the enemies that we're up against are constantly battling. And the CCP, I would say, is absolutely one of the enemies of mankind. It's one of the enemies of us here in America. Now, there's people that, especially these days, that will quickly jump to the conclusion and say, oh, the CCP is a red herring. It's not the CCP because, it's these European bankers or whatever they're saying. But it's important for us to look at the CCP and take them very seriously. And that's what tonight's show is going to be. And look, draw your own conclusions, right? Like you might even find that within me and my own research that my perspective changes, and I might come to realize something and say, look, I was wrong about that, because I'm constantly growing and learning. It's not easy to understand this stuff all at once.
That's right. It's a gift to learn that you're wrong, because truth is the goal. So we all need to be ready to confront, being wrong as it applies, and correct and update our positions. Otherwise, you're just moving forward blindly. Before we watch more, I got the article about Saudi Arabia on archive.is. So let's read a little bit of this. Saudi Arabia privately hinted earlier this year that it might sell some European debt holdings if the group of seven decided to seize almost $300 billion of Russia's frozen assets. People familiar with the matter said the idea that they've frozen so much of Russia's assets, they're just stealing. They're just straight up stealing from Russia. That's an act of war, in my opinion. So, like who could blame Saudi Arabia or Russia for being mad about this? The kingdom's finance ministry told some G7 counterparts of its opposition to the idea, which was meant to support Ukraine, with one person describing it as a veiled threat. The Saudis specifically mentioned debt issued by the French Treasury, two of the people said. In May and June, the G7 was exploring different options regarding the Russian central bank's funds. The group eventually agreed to tap the profits generated and leave the assets themselves alone, despite the U.S. and U.K. push for allies to consider bolder options, including a direct seizure, which I think it was Janet Yellen recently said that they're considering, and that, it's our money now. You're just stealing hundreds of billions of dollars. It's insane. Some Euro member nations were against that idea, concerned it could undermine the currency. How about concerned that it could undermine international security by, basically being an act of war against a hostile foreign power? So this is insane. No such threats were made, according to a statement sent from the Saudi finance ministry. Our relation with the G7 and others is of mutual respect, and we will continue to discuss all issues that promote global growth and enhance the resilience of the international finance system. So come to your own conclusions about that. Let's hop back over to the CCP story.
And so in understanding, though, what we're up against, I think it's important to look at history and look at nations like China and the CCP and understand their perspective. Now, there are some accounts, and I'm not going to be going into it deep in this show, that look at what is the founding of the Chinese Communist Party. And yes, it does point back to Yale in China, for one. It points back to the Jesuits. It points back to the various organizations. A lot of money coming out of Europe, actually, that was funding communism in China, that helped Mao, Zedong, get off the ground in the early days of basically introducing communism to China, which we
Remember when we talked about the Jesuits recently in relation to Anthony Fauci, who went to a Jesuit high school, and we read the Jesuit oath, which includes talking about poisoning your enemies. It's interesting that Fauci loves the Jesuits and looked up to them and idolized them, and now he's involved with AZT in the 80s that allegedly murdered a bunch of HIV/AIDS patients, and now he's involved with other things that we can't talk about on YouTube. It all seems to make sense. I just saw that Jimmy Dore went live. Let's launch a raid over on Jimmy Dore and let him know that Common Censored sent you guys, and then come on back. Checking power levels. Ignition sequence started. Gearing up. Raid starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. Hop over to Jimmy Dore. Let him know that Common Censored sent you. And then come on back to this show and we will continue. But trying to work to spread the word about the show and let people know that we exist. Boom. Just rated and I posted over there. So hop on over to Jimmy Dore, let him know Common Censored sent you, and come on back and let's continue with this video about this crazy alleged leaked CCP speech from the early 2000s that lays out the plan to murder 100 million Americans.
You know, the absolute havoc that had wreaked since then. And so, but just because, let's just say just because there's a controlling group that say, okay, we want to create some sort of color revolution in China, bring in communism, like we saw what happened with the Soviet Union or whatever. It's never just some random guy, Lenin, that says, hey, I want communism. And it happens. You know, these people are their frontmen, right? They're financed. Okay. So Mao was absolutely financed, right? He got off his, really got communism off at the very beginning, specifically through Yale in China, right? So you can trace these things. But the key though, is that I think it's naive to think that, because this government, because it was put in place, was financed or had the initial inertia from this other controlling group, it's naive to think that the communist group is still absolutely to this day being controlled, right? And so that's what's important about this particular speech. So what I'm going to be going through today is this speech that was given by this guy named General Chi Haoqian. So here,
Chi Haoshan.
This introduction says, in 2005, the Epoch Times acquired a secret speech given by Defense Minister Chi Haoqian to high-level Communist Party cadres sometime before his retirement in 2003. Details given in Chi's speech coincide with previously unpublished defector testimony on the Sino-Russian military plans. So there's a few points to make about this. One is this speech is not confirmed, so take it as you will, okay? It was passed to the Epoch Times. It was leaked. The Epoch Times published it back in 2005. Now, I happen to trust the Epoch Times immensely, especially with anything related to China. So I'm not one to quickly dismiss this. And if you read, and I'll be going through the speech with you today, if you look at the language of it, you look at the foreshadowing of where we're at now, it's hard to ignore this speech. Now, let's take a quick step back and look at General Chi Haoqian. I'll pull him up. Real guy. He's actually still alive. Very, very high level general. Very involved in many aspects of China's military strategy and everything. And from 1993 to 2003, he was the Minister of National Defense. And so the idea is that this speech was given during his tenure as the Minister of National Defense. So this, very obviously a very high level guy. Now, the speech itself, what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be reading the speech. Like this is today's show. I'm going to be reading this speech. It might take upwards of 45 minutes to an hour. I mean, it's a pretty long speech, but I can tell you it's absolutely riveting. I've read through it a handful of times. I've referenced it in a lot of my work, and it's hard to ignore the information presented in this speech. And I'll be getting into that. Now, one thing I'll tell you before I jump into it, just as to kind of frame your thinking, is that it's important to understand how the Chinese, and how specifically the Chinese Communist Party, views itself in history. You can see that their perspective, if you take this speech for what it is that their perspective, they would never bow down to some European master. So even if some European group financed and got them off the ground, you can see that they would use that particular group until they had enough power to then take over that group.
Which is exactly what happened. In 1963, Dr. Richard Day, Rockefeller Foundation project to outsource industrial growth and productivity over to China. They're like, yeah, sure, we'll be your industrial center. And then they're like, ha, we're going to take the power that you've given us and weaponize it against you. So that's exactly what happened. Check out this video when you have a chance in full. It's really interesting. They compare themselves to the Nazis, basically saying, oh, well, the Nazis thought that they were superior humans, but we're actually the superior humans, and we're going to learn from the mistakes of the Nazis and take over the globe, but not make those same mistakes. And so it's a pretty intense speech. We're not going to play any more because it actually goes for a really long time, and we want to not infringe on Man in America's copyright. So go on over there when you get a chance later on and listen to this speech. The diabolical Chinese Communist Party planning global domination, claiming they are a superior race among humans that have been in their civilization goes back farther than any of the other races, civilizations all around the world, etc. So, if it's not our government, it's the Chinese, it's all these different forces that we're up against. So this guy sums it up pretty well.
Aliens are going to be super confused when they show up threatening to overthrow our leaders, and we're all stoked and offer to help. Aliens are...
Yeah, basically. We don't want our government. We don't want the Chinese government. Help us, aliens! Although we might be jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire in that specific example. But it was funny. I thought it was a funny clip to play. In our next topic, Joe Biden goes rogue at a union meeting, grabs the mic and starts rambling before the feed abruptly cuts. Think about that, having the audacity to cut the president's microphone. We've seen it happen on a variety of occasions, indicating that Joe Biden is not the dude who's actually in charge, and that when he goes off script, they don't want you to hear it. So there have been a whole bunch of instances where they've cut his mic when he's speaking live, etc. This is just the latest in that string of events. Joe Biden on Wednesday dropped by a meeting of national union leaders at the AFL-CIO headquarters in D.C. Christina Layla wrote this article. There was no enthusiasm for Biden at the union meeting, even though they were paid to be there. It had a funeral-like atmosphere like your typical Joe Biden rally. I think of you as my domestic NATO. Not a joke, Biden said. What the hell are you talking about? I said I'm going to be the most pro-union president in American history, Biden said. Well, guess what? I am. As usual, Biden was incoherently rambling about a bunch of different topics. At one point, Biden went off script in an attempt to be relatable, and it went downhill from there. Let's check out the video.
I promised I was going to have a cabinet that looked like America. And it does. More minorities, more women, more labor. I'm serious. Think about it. That's who we are. That's why we're strong. We're diverse. We're strong. We got to stop looking at it like it's a problem. It's an asset.
The feed cuts. This is so crazy. So as the Biden campaign continues to just go off the rails, we have information that Trump is now preparing to campaign against Kamala this fall, who we need to be Mamala of the nation. Who said that? Somebody really stupid said that recently. Let's check out this clip from over on Redacted where they mention it.
Well, Kamala Harris is set to replace President Biden. And this morning we're hearing from Team Trump that Team Trump is already planning to run against Kamala Harris this fall. Yes, Doc.
Morris's, I don't know what's going on over there, but you guys are getting a lot of echoing on your set. This new set, it looks like you guys set up. The set looks great, but you got to fix that echo, man.
Donald Trump is planning to run against Kamala Harris. The Democratic deep state, of course, run by Barack Obama, is executing their plan right now to remove President Biden from office. And don't fall for it, guys. Like, this has been in the works and planned for many, many months. This is not something that's just suddenly popping out of nowhere. This has all been orchestrated. This isn't something new. The CNN debate, of course, was the catalyst they needed in order to foment their plans.
Yep, that's why they held it months earlier than the typical presidential debates, so that they would then have time to replace Joe Biden, let him hoist himself on his own petard, so to speak, and then swap him out with the candidate of their choice.
Even Texas Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick, called this out back in February. The liberal press, of course, mocked him at the time for calling it a Democratic deep state run by Obama, taking President Biden down. It is happening, and it's all happening in real time. Moments ago, President Biden announced that his pick to replace him is Kamala Harris. So he's just telling the Associated Press just a few minutes ago that he won't step aside. But if he does... Here's why Kamala Harris is the favorite to replace him.
Can you imagine this? I'm not going to be stepping aside. I'm staying in the race as president. But if I step aside, Kamala Harris is the pick. It's ridiculous.
That's happening.
A favorite by him only.
By him only.
Yeah,
well,
my
actually,
favorite.
Hold on a second, because he told this to the Associated Press. He says he's not stepping down. And however, there's a new poll miraculously out this morning that shows that people love her all of a sudden. It's unbelievable how this works. So here's the new poll.
Guys.
These polls are suddenly off the charts. For Kamala Harris, VP Harris emerges as potential Dem savior amid Biden's stumbles, new poll reveals. So here's the new poll. This is
mini ball. Good to see you.
Just in time. It's really kind of amazing. Poll finds Biden damaged by debate with Harris and Clinton best positioned to win. Vice President Harris is now running ahead of Trump 42% to 41%, the new survey found.
Unbelievable. She was polling at 1%, the last person, the lowest polling person in the 2020 presidential primaries. And she was clearly picked as an insurance policy so that nobody would 25th Amendment Biden, because nobody wants Kamala to be president. I've talked before about how I didn't think that it would be likely that Michelle Obama would be picked, or Clinton in this case, because the next phase of this operation, if the Democrats manage to steal this election, is that they are going to completely destroy the country. So whoever's president is going to be the person taking the blame for the fall of the United States Republic, the empire at this point. So I don't think anybody wants that, unless you're like completely brain damaged, like Kamala Harris, who's just like, yeah, I'll be the president. I'll be the first woman, gay, black, Indian president, and I have a brown vagina. It makes me the perfect president. So she's so focused probably on just being the president that she doesn't even realize, I'm guessing, that she's a fall guy basically in this operation. Joe Biden was great for it because he's stupid like that as well. He could do all the stuff that Obama tells him to do through the earpiece, ruin the country, and then not realize that he's a patsy. Or maybe even he does realize it and he's going along with it. But Gavin Newsom, I thought, would be good for that because he's a psychopath, in my opinion, who wouldn't even care as long as is in that position of power. He would be happy to take the fall, I think. Same with Kamala Harris, although she just made the overall, the greater scheme workings may just be right over her head.
And of course, right as all of this poll hits the news this morning, the timing of it's absolutely perfect. Then all of a sudden, all of the fawning Democratic press immediately jumps all over it and runs this headline from Forbes to Daily Mail. Here's just a snippet. Here's Daily Mail. Kamala Harris steps into the spotlight as calls for her to replace Joe Biden grow. That's the Daily Mail. And here's a quote from the Daily Mail. Her approval ratings since she entered office have been dire and sometimes lower than Biden. But a shock poll released on Tuesday morning shows she could narrowly beat Donald Trump in November.
The polls are all BS as usual. His wife, Natalie, says, well, maybe they just polled Kamala's family. It wouldn't surprise me, honestly. Trump knows what's going on. He said at this rally the other day, you have to give him credit for one brilliant decision. Picking Kamala Harris as VP was the greatest insurance policy of all time. If Joe had picked someone even halfway competent, they would have bounced him from office years ago. Let's look at this clip.
But whatever else can be said about crooked Joe Biden, you have to give him credit for one brilliant decision, probably the smartest decision he's ever made. He picked Kamala Harris as his vice president. No,
Mama,
it was brilliant because it was an insurance policy, maybe the best insurance policy I've ever seen, Marco. If Joe had picked someone even halfway competent, they would have bounced him from office years ago, but they can't because she's got to be their second choice. She has no choice and no chance.
Yep. And like I always say, it's the controlled corporate media, and they got the talking points, and they all in coordination go out and are saying, now Kamala is the best choice. Kamala is the best choice. These people are insane. That's right, Mama Mac. Who would actually believe a poll these days? They lie about everything. Just like all the polls leading up to 2016 were BS. They put out fake polls, in my opinion, to seed the waters to make people, to precondition people to accept the election steals when the election steals happen. So the fact that they're even trying to claim that Kamala is viable tells me that they have a steal plan in effect that's going to be going on this fall. So that's pretty crazy. But Trump should do exactly what Joe Biden did. Pick a VP that would make for a good insurance policy. So how about, Steve Bannon for VP? They'll never want to get rid of Trump. Mike Flynn for VP. They'd never want to get rid of Trump. Alex Jones for VP. They'd never, ever, ever want to get rid of Trump. He would be, it'd be like a life insurance policy as well as a power insurance policy for Trump. So I'm saying Alex Jones for VP. Let's go. Let's go. Let's make it happen. Oh man, totally crazy. Meanwhile, we have Kamala just saying the dumbest possible stuff you could even conjure up in the mind of a low IQ gremlin.
Meanwhile,
So Kamala's out there just saying this stuff with a straight face. Take a look at this.
Donald Trump has openly vowed, if reelected, he'll be a dictator on day one. That he will weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies.
Weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Alex Jones, Roger Stone, Mike Flynn, Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro, Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump. That's what you guys are doing. You are weaponizing the Department of Justice against political enemies. We and Donald Trump will just be seeking justice. You guys are the actual criminals. There are actual charges that you could all be be brought up on. So it's complete falsehood, Orwellian doublespeak, the typical communist modus operandi of just blaming your enemies for whatever you're doing. Thanks, guys, for smashing the like button over there. I see we're at 22 likes already. Appreciate all of you. And we're at 776 followers on Rumble. That's almost 1776, just missing that one at the front. If you're new, make sure to smash that follow button, hit the notification bell, so you'll be notified when we go live every day at weekdays, at least at 6:30-ish p.m. Eastern time. Thanks for joining us. If you're new to the show, this is Common Censored. I'm Lord Sterling. We together are the censored commoners, working together as force multipliers to spread important information far and wide to help wake up people, accelerating and exacerbating the Great Awakening to stop the global communist takeover and the subsuming of the United States into that global communist state before they're able to lock us down in the cashless control grid prison planet that they want to relocate us all into. So thank you guys for being here. Thanks for hitting that subscribe button. Hit that big, beautiful join button too, and you'll be entered to win copies of our books. So I thought this was a good idea from Trump. At the same rally, he decided to challenge, thanks Crazy B for sending this over as well. Crazy B at Crazy B 8383 on X. Make sure to follow Crazy B Gaming on YouTube as well. Crazy B says this would be a great alternative to a debate. And she reposts Simon Atiba at Simon Atiba on X. Just in, Trump challenges Biden to a golf match at Miami rally. Offers $1 million charity bet. Let's take it out.
That's why this evening I am also, and this is in honor of you and everybody here, is 45,000 people. That's a lot of people. I'm also officially challenging Crooked Joe to an 18-hole golf match right here.
Biden can't even get 45 people at a rally, let alone 45,000.
On Doral Blue Monster, considered one of the greatest tournament golf courses anywhere in the world, one of the great courses of the world. It will be among the most watched sporting events in history, maybe bigger than the Ryder Cup or even the Masters. And I will even give Joe Biden 10 strokes aside. 10 strokes, that's a lot. That means 20 strokes in case you don't play golf. I will give him 10 strokes aside, and if he wins, I will give the charity of his choice, any charity that he wants, $1 million.
Joe Biden's claiming he got a 6 handicap, right? Let's see, Joe. Let's see how you do. Oh my God, hilarious. Sergeant No, that's a good one. I'm surprised Kamala didn't patent Hawk Tua Harris. Oh God, that's how she got in power, right? The old Hawk Tua heels up Harris, as everybody says. Big ass life. Biden says he's too busy sleeping. I mean, running the country. Yeah, seriously. People were badgering KJP the other day at one of the press conferences, asking her, well, you know, if President Biden needs to go to sleep at 8 p.m., then who is answering the call when it turns out that there's a nuclear attack from Russia against the U.S. or something? Like, we need a president who's not incapacitated after 8 p.m. You know what I'm saying? You need to be at the beck and call of the American people at any time of the day. You can't be incapacitated half of the day. You need to be able to wake your ass up immediately if the people need you, and that is not the case with creepy Sleepy Joe. He can't even hit a golf ball. Trump said, "I've seen your swing." Oh my God, I want this charity golf match to happen. In other news, Barron Trump appeared at his first rally recently as well. Look at this giant over here. This dude is huge. He's like 6'7", man.
A very young man. He's now going to college, got into every college he wanted to, and he made his choice. And he's a very good guy, I'll tell you. You know, I'm not allowed to call them boy, but he is my boy. He's my boy. They're all my boys, right? When you have sons, you can be any age. They're your boy. They're always going to be. And he's a very special guy. Barron Trump. This is the first time he's ever been. Barron.
Straight up Alexander the Conqueror reborn, man. Look at the sculptures of Alexander, then compare them to Barron Trump, the time traveler. This is epic.
Where is Barron? Stand up. Look at him.
Dude is a giant. Good for him, man.
That's the first time he's done it. That's the first time, right? Hey, you're pretty popular. He might be more popular than Don and Eric. We got to talk about it. Hey, Don, we got to talk about this, huh? All right. So, Barron, it's good to have you. Welcome to the scene, Barron. I don't know. He had such a nice, easy life. Now it's a little bit changed. Anyway, a special guy, right?
Boom. Dude is massive. So he potentially has a political future as well. Gator and Whiskey, we're talking about him escalating rapidly in the soon-to-be time period, maybe becoming a senator, then maybe trying to be president when he's 35. Who knows? We'll have to see what he's capable of, how he interfaces with the people, what his policies are. But I think he's got a bright future, and a lot of people love Barron, so it's going to be exciting to see what happens with this guy in the coming years. In other news, Alexandria Occasional Cortex introduced articles of impeachment against Justice Thomas and Justice Alito for doing their job. New York Representative AOC has introduced articles of impeachment against Thomas and Alito. This radical step follows her previous threat of impeachment against the 6 conservative justices after the Supreme Court ruled in favor of President Donald Trump's immunity from prosecution for alleged crimes committed during his tenure. Yeah, we already have a way to prosecute presidents. It's called impeachment. The Gateway Pundit previously reported that Cortez was among the many leftists to freak out over the verdict following a ruling that Trump has immunity from prosecution for official acts committed as president. AOC took to the platform to threaten impeachment against the justices. We covered that as it happened last week. But on Wednesday today, she followed through on her promise, introducing impeachment articles against Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. She accuses both of refusing to recuse themselves from consequential court matters in which they allegedly have financial and personal entanglements. According to the press release, the first impeachment resolution includes the following impeachment articles against Justice Thomas. 1. Failure to disclose financial income, gifts and reimbursements, property interests, liabilities, and transactions, among other information. Refusal to recuse from matters concerning his spouse's legal interest in cases before the court. Refusing to recuse from matters involving his spouse's financial interests before the court. The second impeachment resolution includes the following impeachment articles against Justice Alito. 1. Refusing to recuse from cases in which he had a personal bias or prejudice concerning a party in cases before the court. 2. Failure to disclose financial income, gifts and reimbursements, property interests, liabilities, and transactions, among other information. They're coming after our justices, guys. The two good ones. The left, you already know exactly what they are, but I'll play it anyway.
It's pure evil!
It's pure, unadulterated,
100%
100% evil. And let's give a little alert for Alexandria Ocasio.
Retard alert! Retard alert, class!
For her occasional usage of her cortex. She made the following statement. The unchecked corruption crisis on the Supreme Court has now spiraled into a constitutional crisis threatening American democracy writ large. Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito's pattern of refusal to recuse from consequential matters before the court in which they hold widely documented financial and personal entanglements constitutes a grave threat to American rule of law, the integrity of our democracy, and one of the clearest cases for which the tool of impeachment was designed. It's not a democracy. Like we played in that clip at the start, that's a trick. It's a trap to make you think that Congress can do just whatever the hell they want. The constitutional republic is designed to prevent Congress from being able to pass laws that violate the Constitution. But no, if they can convince you that it is in fact a democracy, then Congress can just do whatever the hell they want. Thanks to Betelgeuse68. Sorry if I mispronounced that for following the broadcast. Same with Span45 and Truth Saves Lives Destroys. Truth Saves Lies Destroy. Thanks for joining. Also, Dixie Bishop, thank you guys for following the podcast. I appreciate you. Let's check out a little palate cleanser before we continue on with the news. I thought this was pretty cool. We got a beluga blowing bubble rings over here. So cool. I've played clips before on the show of dolphins swimming around, and they blow a bubble out of their blowhole and then manipulate it with their beaks. Is that the proper word? And spin it into a circular ring of air that they can then change the shape and size of and guide them around. Dolphins and apparently beluga whales are pretty highly intelligent and have interesting capacity for physics and being able to manipulate their environments around them. Pretty cool stuff. So let's jump over to our next topic, which is also kind of a palate cleanser, as CNN is set to fire hundreds as ratings crater. Speaking of craters, they should just take all of these talking heads and toss them into a volcanic crater. After due process, of course, FBI's asshole to go with our spikes, wood chippers, ropes, and volcanoes theme that we have with this show. So this is hilarious. New CNN to fire hundreds. As ratings crater, CNN has announced plans to lay off at least 100 employees, with potentially more on the chopping block, as part of a new strategy focused on shoring up the network's failing cable news ratings and making a second attempt for a foothold in the digital realm. Let's hop over to Gateway Pundit's coverage of it real quick. Get woke, go broke, they say. CNN CEO announces layoffs for 100 employees. This article is by Anthony Scott. Bidenomics has hit CNN. CNN CEO Mark Thompson has announced the network will lay off nearly 100 employees In a memo to company employees, Thompson announced that the network will undergo changes, including structural changes to the newsroom and a new subscription service. In the memo, Thompson noted that 100 employees, or 3% of the company's employees, would be laid off as part of the structural changes in the newsroom. So it's only 3%, unfortunately, but it's still 3%. Thompson stated the move is a, quote, key milestone in the transformation of CNN. Screw CNN. The best transformation you could have is just transforming into being inactive completely. You're a thing of the past, CNN. Legacy dinosaur media. We don't want you. We don't need you. And you are obsolete. Per the New York Post, CNN CEO Mark Thompson revealed to staffers Wednesday a drastic new plan to push the cable news network into the digital age. A little bit late to the party, guys, and signaled that job cuts are coming. The media boss called the incoming changes, which will include a new subscription service and structural changes to the newsroom, a, quote, key milestone in the transformation of CNN. They're going to lay off 100 employees, 3% of the workforce, as well as building a new digital subscription service, which will tank because nobody wants your bullshit, that he hopes will generate more than $1 billion in revenue. I hope you spend $1 billion to make it happen and then lose it all when nobody subscribes. Didn't you guys already try this with CNN Plus? How'd that work out for you? Oh yeah, hey look, previously CNN launched CNN Plus, a streaming network platform that was shut down after only 1 month. With Chris Hayes, who left Fox to join CNN Plus, getting canceled as well over there. Hilarious. News network canceled the platform after it was reported the network had lower than expected subscriptions. How stupid do you have to be to expect that there would be any subscriptions at all? Total clown world. Total clown world. Apparently they're going to be using AI to help try to solve their problems. This individual over here, at Rachel Metz, posted, so if I have this straight, CNN laid off 100 humans. I'm so sorry, friends. And is planning to use AI to get back to its roots, with a screenshot. As he works to modernize CNN's business, Thompson unveiled plans to embrace artificial intelligence tools, aiming to, quote, reclaim the pioneering spirit Ted Turner talked about at their founding and regain a leadership position in the news experiences of the future. Thompson said CNN will make a strategic push into AI to, quote, determine how best to safely harness this emerging new technology to serve our audiences and deliver our journalistic goals more effectively and responsibly. No, AI is garbage. All of the AI that's out there, for the most part, is programmed to spit out lefty talking points. So anything that you're doing with AI is going to just make it worse for you guys. So go ahead and do it and help solidify your downfall. For all I care. This comes amidst other news that mainstream media is being shaken up. This being reported by Fox 8 New Orleans at Fox 8 NOLA on X. CBS President Ingrid Cyprian Matthews said she's resigning after less than a year in her role. And CNN announced that it was eliminating approximately 100 jobs. So CNN cutting jobs, the CBS News president resigning, all good stuff. Screw these people. Let's hop over to our next topic. Thanks, Mama Mac, for sharing this one. This is pretty disturbing. Mama Mac at _Mama Mac _ saying, what the fuck? I mean, for real, what the fuck? And she reposted Shipwreck Show. Gonna have to follow this one. First ever study done on tampons reveals high levels of lead and arsenic. Boycott all of them. Wow. So they're taking advantage of those mucous membranes in the vagina and poisoning people with lead and arsenic. I mean, arsenic might be good for combating cancer, right? But not in too high doses. Let's take a listen to this video. Thanks, Mom Mac, for sharing. And sorry to all of the ladies out there who may have been affected and afflicted by this horrifying development.
Toxic arsenic.
Over the years, because who knows how long this has been going on for.
Toxic arsenic and lead were detected in tampons that were sold in the UK, Greece, and in the United States, according to a first ever tampon study. First ever? You mean to tell me that you don't check this shit on a regular basis? Researchers had found more than a dozen metals, including lead and arsenic, in widely available tampons in the United States and Europe, used by potentially millions of people. 30 tampons were tested from 14 different brands, according to the study, but they didn't say what exactly the brands were. That exposure can cause neurological damage. This is the first paper to measure the concentration of metals in tampons. That was according to Jenny Shearston, who's a postdoctoral scholar at the University of California, Berkeley School of Public Health.
So, as you guys might remember, one of the big factors in the downfall of the Roman Empire was the lead pipes that they were using to transport water and supply water to the population, causing mass insanity. It seems like there's maybe some interesting parallels going on with the mass insanity that we're seeing all across the United States today as a result of a cocktail of chemicals and, carcinogens and horrifying things, including all those brain clots we were talking about yesterday that are affecting people's minds and IQs and capabilities to think and process information rationally using logic. Let's continue.
University of California, Berkeley School of Public Health. Researching more to see exactly how much lead or exactly how much arsenic leaks out of these tampons. Goes on to talk about how the skin in your vajayjay is more permeable than other areas of the body, and anything absorbed in the bloodstream from there isn't first passed through the gastrointestinal tract or filtered by the liver. It just goes
That's what I'm talking about. The mucous membranes just right into your bloodstream.
Straight into your body. It doesn't get filtered out. It doesn't get cleaned like a lot of the things that you drink or eat. I'm fucking tired. Was this the first study that you've ever done on tampons? Why is that not a biannual thing, an annual thing, and every 6 months? Why are we not testing these things every 6 months before we are putting them on the shelves for women to purchase and to stick directly in them?
Because they want you dead, in my opinion, and they want you poisoned and dumbed down so that you are less capable and likely to resist, and they're using subterfuge to enact their horrendous plot.
Shit in our water, and you put shit in our food, and you put shit in our air. And all the while, we pay enormous taxes so that you can just continue to do that. The FDA has no statement so far. CEOs and tampon companies, they haven't said anything either yet. And studies that come out now because of birth control causes infertility issues and endometriosis. Information wasn't widely available back in the 90s when every single girl and woman was on it. It takes time to do those. No, you know what? Then don't give it to people. I am blown the fuck away that this is the first time that these have been tested. Ever. Mention that tampons are wildly expensive, like $9 a box. And they're taxed, of course, because of course they are. However, there have not been more studies on this, considering all of the problems that women have been having specifically in the last 20 or so years.
Because it's intentional. They know they're poisoning you, and if they allow studies, then the gig is up. But as Robert said, as soon as the trans community starts getting anal lead poisoning, then it will be an important story. Oh, trans women are under attack,
Their cycle with endometriosis, with ovarian cysts, able to have children, or they live in constant pain. Their periods are so bad. And what do? We give them birth control. Been linked through lawsuits to cause cancer and all kinds of things. Lack of studies done on women's health overall,
but it's good for acne.
Is so infuriating. Maybe it's intentional. Maybe this is the way to keep women at a handmaid's tale. I don't know. But it's frustrating. Anyway, if you want to stop using tampons, they actually make something called period briefs, washable liners that are likened to your disposable pads. And they're reusable, and you're not spending $10 a month on tampons. They're safer from what I can tell.
And there's those little cups that you can use as well. I can't remember what they're called, but they're little cups that you insert, and they keep everything contained, and they're cleanable and reusable. So there are additional options for the ladies out there that need a safe alternative.
I'll just boycott them all. I'd like, let's just stop using disposable period things. Full-on boycott.
Boycott them all. You guys might remember also that leading up to the COOF pandemic, there was a big international summit over in Europe. What was it called? Like COP28 or something, where they laid out the plans for everything that was about to unfold in startling, terrifying detail. Well, it looks like there's something similar that's about to go down in D.C. Cam Bree over here at KAMVTV on X posted this. An international bird flu summit is scheduled to take place in Washington, D.C. in October to prepare the country for management strategies. No one is talking about it. Let's take a listen to this intrepid reporter over here who's covering important news that everybody needs to know about.
Okay, so I have to do this really quick video because I was listening to the radio today and they were talking about this huge international summit in Washington, D.C.
Real quick, Unique Prepping posting his new video from his camping trip last weekend, coming out in less than 90 minutes. Whoop, whoop. Looks like a beautiful area that he spent time in over the 4th of July holiday. Everybody hop over to Unique Prepping on YouTube and subscribe and check out this video when it drops. It's going to be a good one. Maybe we'll hop over there when it goes live and show a couple seconds of it. Thanks, Z-Man, for letting us know.
I am not hearing on the news. I love headline news. I love headline podcasts, but everyone does them, and I'm not interested in them because I don't want to be like everybody else. I'm kind of nerd when it comes to politics. I like policy and stuff like that. But there's an international bird flu summit that's taking place, and all these folks about pandemics are coming together to talk about how to be prepared about the massive bird flu that could possibly start happening in 2 weeks.
Oh, man, super sketchy. Real quick, let's hop back over to the tampon topic. I'll show you guys these period cups that I was talking about. Period cups, also known as menstrual cups, are a type of reusable period product designed to collect menstrual blood instead of absorbing it like tampons. Small, flexible, tunnel-shaped cup made of rubber or silicone that can function as a good alternative. Let's take a look over here at one of them really quick so you ladies are informed about potentially safe options that you can use instead of tampons. Here we have the Flex Cup. One-time investment, you can clean it, reuse it, and keeps you contained. 12-hour leak protection, patented pull tab, removes like a tampon, zero waste, lasts for years, so you're saving money and potentially being safer if you look into these cups. So just a little bit of information for you in case you were unaware that those exist. There are safe alternatives to the lead and arsenic riddled tampons, apparently. Let's continue with the bird flu summit video.
How to be prepared in birds and cattle and pets and people. And everything is online. Breakout sessions, what they're talking about. Media's not talking about this. No one's talking about this. Everyone's coming to Washington, D.C. October 2nd for this huge bird flu summit. They start discussing at this summit control functions, civil unrest, how to manage civil unrest. The breakout sessions are absolutely insane in here. Implementing isolation measures in correctional facilities, controlling social unrest and public disorder. These are things that
implementing isolation procedures in what did you call it?
Controlling
containment facilities. Sounds a lot like those FEMA camps we've been covering lately. They're going to be building them under the guise of COVID, or of pandemic safety zones, essentially to isolate people with the various diseases. But that's just the guise, of course. They'll probably be using it to round up MAGA if they're successful in using the neo-Nazis or whatever to create a massive false flag this summer or this fall or this winter to blame on MAGA. So be aware of that. But they're going to be building these under the guise of pandemic isolation facilities, containment facilities, as Jones was saying. The layouts of the civilian inmate labor camps are exactly the same camps that they're using for the COOF stuff over in Australia and other places.
Insane in here. Implementing isolation measures in correctional facilities, controlling social unrest and public disorder. These are things that they're going to be talking about. Not only that, first responders, fire departments, they have keynote presenters. Everything is online. You can see the whole weekend. Nothing conspiratorial. I could post this and it may not go far considering all algorithms are changing now, but there's a lot of stuff that is going on in October. They're talking about hospital emergency services, preparing people for possibly another pandemic. And people have to be prepared, and they have to know what is going on, because no one's talking about it. And when I hear something like this, the first thing I can do is get to the airwaves, because I'm wondering, what are they doing? I have these guys behind me that I take care of 24/7, that I adore. And what's going to happen? And no one's talking about it. Are they preparing something? Because of what it sounded like that I heard today on talk radio was it could start in 2 weeks. This was FM radio, not AM radio, not anything. 2 weeks. And it's all online. October 2nd, the Bird Flu Summit International. They're coming from all over, and it's right here.
How would they know that there's a pandemic about to occur in 2 weeks? It's almost like they have inside information. Leakers, so to speak, but not leaking the information, leaking the virus. Sketchy stuff.
Everyone needs to start asking questions, and they need to start looking at this right before the election. Go flippin' figure, y'all. But I had to say something, because I just can't stay quiet, because it's nothing that I'm making up. It's hidden in plain sight, but no one's talking about it and no one's asking questions. Why am I not shocked again?
Right. Imagine my shock.
Well, imagine my shock.
This is a crazy situation, guys. Another sterling, excellent economic news. We have office vacancy rates reaching record highs across the U.S. As more and more offices are empty. Office vacancy rates reached a record 20.1% in the second quarter, the highest since at least 1979, when Moody's began trafficking. I think this was from my de facto advisor, Silent Dogood. Thanks, Dogood, for doing a good job and sending really interesting stuff for me to talk about. So this is not good. This is from Axios, author Emily Peck. Data from Moody's. Note, data covers vacancy rates in Tier 1 metro areas. Office vacancies reached a record 20.1% in the second quarter, the highest since at least 1979, when Moody's began tracking. Why it matters. Typically, vacancy rates rise in economic downturns. It's outside the normal pattern that they've been going up for the past few years as the economy has remained on solid ground. Wow, they're actually saying the economy has remained on solid ground. They're gaslighting you straight up at Axios, saying everything's fine, but businesses are disappearing and there's high record vacancy rates and for office space. Which one is it? Is the economy on solid ground, or is there record vacancies for office space? Office Space, another great movie by Mike Judge. If you haven't seen it, probably have. Worth watching. I believe you have my stapler. So they're just gaslighting us, bullshitting us. This is not good. What it makes me think of, you get record office vacancy, there's going to be some kind of catalyst for something horrifying, because leading up to 9/11, you may recall that the Twin Towers had record low office space vacancy, a record high vacancy rates in the Twin Towers before the disaster occurred. So, I mean, it's not the exact parallel, but it could be, some kind of parallel to pay attention to. This does not lead to anything good. This does not lead to anything good. Meanwhile, record U.S. household debt, rising credit card delinquencies, and highest non-mortgage interest payments since 2008. Americans' non-mortgage interest payments, such as for credit cards and auto loans, as a share of their disposable income, was 2.4% in April, near the highest levels since 2008, according to Kinlan's analysis of Commerce Department data. But, the economy is on solid ground, according to Axios, so this doesn't mean anything at all. They're not just straight up lying to your face. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, U.S. household debt has indeed reached a record level. Here are the key points from their latest quarterly report on household debt and credit from quarter one of 2024. This is from Citizen Watch Report, your go-to source for current events. CitizenWatchReport.com. Bullet point 1, total household debt. The first quarter of 2024, total household debt rose by $184 billion, reaching a staggering $17.69 trillion. 69, dude. Not a good 69. This includes various types of debt such as mortgages, auto loans, and credit card balances. Bullet point 2, mortgage balances. Mortgage balances increased by $190 billion, bringing the total to $12.44 trillion. This reflects ongoing activity in the housing market. Bullet point 3, auto loans. Balances on auto loans climbed by $9 billion, reaching $1.62 trillion. Auto loan balances have been on an upward trajectory since 2020. Credit card balances. Credit card balances declined by $14 billion during the first quarter, typical for this period. However, credit card debt remains substantial at $1.12 trillion. Delinquency rates. Nearly 9% of credit card balances and 8% of auto loans transitioned into delinquency annualized. This indicates more borrowers are falling behind on payments. HELOC balances, home equity lines of credit, increased by $16 billion, continuing a trend seen since this quarter one of 2022. The aggregate outstanding balances now stand at $376 billion. $376 billion. Where have I heard that number before? Wells Fargo, $376 billion laundering. If I remember correctly, they got fined back in like 2010. They were caught laundering like $376 billion of some kind of money. I can't find the exact story right now, but it's out there. I'll find it for later. Other balances. Balances on retail cards and other consumer loans decreased by $11 billion. Student loans. Student loan balances remained effectively flat with $6 billion decrease, totaling $1.6 trillion. So the economy is not in good shape, but they're telling you everything is fine. Everything is fine. Don't worry about it, guys. Just drink your fluoride, relax. Take your hormone blockers, cut off your ding-dongs. Everything's okay. Just come towards the light. Come towards the light. Let's hop over to our next topic. Mama Mac sent me this one as well. A good planned obsolescence story saying we will never buy a car that we can't repair ourselves, and we're still using a stove/oven from the 1960s. Modern quality standards suck. Yeah, that's right, Mama Mac. Everything from cars to appliances to guitars, the quality of craftsmanship and product and materials has gone down drastically in recent decades. Let's take a look at this new transmission that you're not allowed to repair, that you can't repair.
Okay, I want to show you guys something at Con Expo. This is the new DT12 automatic transmission. Here's some really cool things about the engineering on it. So they won't sell you anything to repair this transmission. You can't buy the parts. They won't tell you how to repair it. All Detroit will do is sell you a new one. So if you grenade this transmission, they'll just sell you a brand new transmission. That's it. You can't fix it. You can't take it to a repair shop. It is pure planned obsolescence. And we asked the guys, like, how come you can't repair it? How come it's only re and re? And they said, oh, it's too complicated for somebody to change. It's just gears. It is just pure gears. They said you need a $4.5 million machine if you want to be able to service this truck transmission. This is exactly what we stand against at Edison Motors. This planned obsolescence that you can't repair it, we won't even sell you the parts, you need to just buy a new one. You can't fix it yourself. That's what they want. That's what we're going to. And this is bullshit.
Total bullshit. Planned obsolescence is when they design products to fail intentionally, to keep you coming back for more indefinitely, to keep products coming. Instead of making good stuff that lasts for a long time that you can rely on, they design things to fail, to increase the your likelihood to come back and purchase more. It made me think of this documentary that I saw years ago, The Light Bulb Conspiracy, a film by Cosima Danoritzer. Sorry about that. Anyway, this documentary talks all about planned obsolescence and how they do this intentionally. Let's watch a couple minutes. France Televisión Española, División de Cataluña.
This is Marcos from Barcelona, but he could be anyone, anywhere. What is about to happen to him occurs daily in offices and homes all over the world. A part inside the printer has failed, and the manufacturer sends Marcos to technical support.
El meu tècnic fa un diagnòstic previ, però aquest diagnòstic ja són 15 euros més IVA.
Seguramente será difícil encontrar las piezas para poder repararla.
Realment, reparar-la no li surt molt a compte.
Que reparar-la parlem d'uns 110, 120 euros.
Tienes impresoras desde 39 euros.
So it's not worth repairing, you just gotta buy a new one.
Així que, sens dubte, jo en compraria una nova,
It's no coincidence that all three shopkeepers suggest buying a new printer. If he agrees, Marcos will become yet another victim of planned obsolescence, the secret mechanism at the heart of our consumer society.
Our role in life seems to be just to consume things with credit, to borrow money to buy things we don't need.
Nous vivons dans une société dominée par une
Live in a
économie de
society
croissance
dominated by a growth
dont la
economy
logique
whose
est
logic is not
non
creating
pas
business because
croître
we need
pour
things
satisfaire les
just for the
besoins, mais
sake of it.
croître pour croître.
So if the consumer does not purchase, the economy is not going to grow.
Planned obsolescence. The desire on the part of a consumer to own something a little newer, a little sooner than is necessary.
This film will reveal how planned obsolescence has defined our lives ever since the 1920s, when manufacturers started shortening the lives of products to increase consumer demand.
A light bulb being a key one.
Beschränken wir einfach die Lebensdauer auf 1000 Stunden.
We will find out how designers and engineers were made to adopt new values and objectives.
So they intentionally decreased the lifespan of light bulbs to 1,000 hours to keep people coming back to buy more and more and more. If I remember correctly, there's a light bulb down in Texas at a fire station that's been operational, lit up since like the 1800s at this point. Let's continue for a minute.
Was back to the drawing board and come out with something that was more fragile.
They time those things. They time them. So when you finally paid for them, they're used up.
A new generation of consumers has started challenging manufacturers. Is it possible to imagine a viable economy without planned obsolescence, without its impact on the environment?
Posterity will never forgive us. Posterity will suddenly find out about the throwaway lifestyles of people in the advanced countries.
Welcome to Livermore, California, home of the longest burning light bulb in the world. My name's Lynn Owens, and I am chairman of the Light Bulb Committee. It was in 1972 when we discovered that the light bulb that was hanging in the fire station was a significant light bulb.
The light bulb at the Livermore fire station has been burning continuously since 1901. Ironically, the bulb has already outlasted 2 webcams.
1901! Goosebumps, man.
In 2001, when the bulb was 100 years old, the people of Livermore threw a big birthday party, American style.
I think we were hoping if we would get 200 people, we'd be happy, and we ended up with 800 or 900 people showing up. You think that anybody would sing happy birthday to a light bulb? Well, we didn't think they would, but they did.
The origin of the bulb was, it was produced in a town called Shelby, Ohio, back around 1895, and put together by some very interesting ladies that I have some pictures of, and some gentlemen that invested in the company. The filament was invented by Adolphe Chaillet. He invented his filament to last.
Like any person trying to provide a good product would do. But they're not trying to do that now. They design everything intentionally to fail.
Why does his filament last? I don't know. It's a secret that he made, and that died with him.
Chaillet's formula for a long-lasting filament is not the only mystery in the history of the light bulb. A much bigger secret is how the humble light bulb became the first victim of planned obsolescence.
Weihnachten 1924 war ein ganz besonderer Tag. In einem Hinterzimmer in Genf trafen sich einige Herren in Nadelstreifenanzügen, um einem geheimen Plan nachzugehen. Sie gründeten das erste weltweite Kartell, das sich zum Ziel setzte, die Glühbirnenproduktion der gesamten Länder zu kontrollieren und den Kuchen namens Weltmarkt unter sich aufzuteilen. Dieses Kartell hat den Namen Phoebus.
Phoebus included the main light bulb manufacturers in Europe and the United States, and even faraway colonies in Asia and Africa.
Das Ziel ist gewesen, Patente auszutauschen, die Produktion zu kontrollieren und vor allem aber den Verbraucher zu kontrollieren. Es ist umso besser für diese Firmen, wenn der Verbraucher regelmäßig Glühlampen kauft, und wenn die Glühlampen lange brennen, ist das ein ökonomischer Nachteil.
Yeah, so it's a disadvantage for the companies if light bulbs fail. It's better to keep them. Interesting. Big As Life says iridium coating. I'll bet. Very interesting. Yeah, so they needed people to come back, keep spending more money, so they designed products to fail, wasting tons of material in the process, so it's not actually good for the economy. It produces a ton of waste, and now everything from cars to appliances to you name it, literally everything is designed to fail, to keep you coming back and spending more. Imagine how great things would be if products lasted, and the amount of money that people would save over their lifetimes if they didn't have to continually buy new stuff. It's crazy. Let's jump over to our next topic with a little palate cleanser, since that was kind of horrifying and sad and everything. Let's check out this video of this dude who melted his drone to get this epic shot. This is really cool. Let's refresh and start it from the beginning. Volcano shot. Oh man, look at how cool that is. Volcanoes after due process. Boom, and the drone goes down. So I just thought that was pretty cool. Some really high quality footage of the directly above an active volcanic crater, not something you get to see every day because, as you can see from this video, the cameras just do not last. So luckily he was getting a wireless signal back to his phone from this device. You see the drone fly amidst all those molten chunks of magma that are flying up, and it just gets taken down, and that drone was lost to the volcano. That's where the lefties should be, not the drone. After due process, of course. FBI is assho. Let's hop over to a video from the quartering that he posted earlier today, saying that this is a super important topic. Confirmation that Joe Rogan has been censored by Spotify, as well as Elon Musk and Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh being censored by YouTube and Facebook. Not surprising, but let's hear what Jeremy has to say for a couple seconds.
There aren't many channels online that have talked about free speech more than me. I mean, there certainly are, and there have been many who have stayed committed to it throughout the years as well. But it's a core tenet of what I talk about on this channel. And when you support free speech, then of course any level of censorship is antithetical to that, in direct opposition to free speech. And there were some congressional hearings today that Ben Shapiro was at to talk about GARM, which is a conglomerate that owns or represents 90% of every single advertising dollar spent online.
Dude, monopoly.
And guess what they don't like? All the
Freedom of
typical
speech
stuff, right? They're against mean words, they're against information they don't like. Even Twitter, X, signed up for it. And I don't think Elon Musk even knew, because I'm going to show you this. Elon Musk actually tweeted, he's like, oh, this is so bad. And I replied to him like, bro, you signed up for this 7 days ago. We're going to talk about that. I'll start with Ben Shapiro absolutely wrecking a Democratic congressman who thought he had, one over on him.
I was just about to turn up the speed of this video to make it play back a little faster, but Ben Shapiro already talks so fast that it would probably be detrimental to the audience. You wouldn't be able to understand anything he says if you speed up Ben Shapiro. So let's take a listen.
Here's Representative Solwell trying to get over on Ben Shapiro, which is just, quite frankly, absolutely hilarious. I think Libs posted the shorter one. That's because I don't want to watch all 5 minutes of this Fang guy. Here we have Ben Shapiro on Capitol Hill talking about censorship, and in particular of the right, in his opinion. But you see Lamau Ben Shapiro just wrecked Eric Swalwell, also known as Swallowswell, also known as Bang Bang Fang,
also known as Farts on Camera.
Here we go.
Shapiro, thank you for joining us today. I think it is important that you're here as one of the leading conservative voices in the country. And the country has, in the last couple of weeks, talked a lot about and Googled Project 2025. It's one of the most Googled search terms right now.
Because you guys are doing that. Because you're telling everyone to do it. By the way, they're trying to hold this thing as a cudgel against Trump.
It's a heritage project. Trump isn't even directly involved with it. It's a bunch of BS.
I don't know every little aspect of it, but I do know is Trump has said he's got nothing to do with it.
And you're not going to get any censorship from me. So I just wanted to know, from your perspective, I think it would help us understand, on just like a scale of 0 to 100%, how much do you support Project 2025?
I think, like President Trump, I haven't looked all that deeply at Project 2025, but it seems that Democrats on this committee, sort of like Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, if they say Project 2025 enough, their presidential candidate becomes alive again.
And so
the crowd even laughs.
Well, let's just talk about pieces of it, and I guess you can tell me if you support it. You probably want less bureaucracy, right?
I do.
I want less bureaucracy. You want more efficiency?
Bullshit.
I do.
I want less.
Where's the bullshit flag when you need it? Let's see. Where is the bullshit? Oh, here it is. Here's the bullshit flag.
The bullshit flag's coming out.
He wants less bureaucracy. Eric Swalwell? Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so, Eric.
Bureaucracy, right?
I do.
I want less bureaucracy. You want more efficiency?
I do.
I want more efficiency. You want
Freudian
taxpayer
slip.
money spent wisely?
I do. Congrats on becoming a Republican.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like, Ben for his particular opinions and geopolitics, and that's fine. I think that's a fair position to have. But when he's talking about free speech, I support him. And this other piece where he talks about, in this clip, is that the Daily Wire and conservative media have been subject to a 1,000% increase in censorship, 80 times more YouTube censorship, and the whole thing is wild. Hold on a second here.
Chairman Jordan, 2017, Senator Dianne Feinstein told lawyer groups like the Global Alliance to run an ad-based business. And if you're not following their preferred political narratives, the ones that Kara Swisher and Dianne Feinstein would follow, you will not be deemed brand safe. Your business will be throttled. We at Daily Wire have experienced...
What he's talking about here is when politicians say, like, boy, I don't know about the quartering guy. Oh, I wonder if he's... It is like this covert way of them saying, hey, you gotta censor this person. And he gives actual facts about Daily Wire and the number of infractions that have come after politicians have essentially indirectly asked for them.
This firsthand. In 2017, after Senator Feinstein made her threats to bring the weight of government down on social media platforms, Daily Wire YouTube channel saw a 1,000% increase in content enforcements over a 2-year period.
A 1,000% increase. I mean, do you think that's a coincidence?
That's 100 times less of an increase than the brain clots like we talked about yesterday.
Now, what does that mean? Probably demonetization or having videos flagged, things of that nature.
Since 2021, after Democrat officials further turned up the heat on social media companies, my personal Facebook page has seen an over 80% drop in impressions. Or take Joe Rogan.
An 80% drop of impressions on Ben's page. That is massive. Essentially been shadow banned. This is the thing that oftentimes when they have these congressional hearings, it's easy to just be like, yo, nothing's going to happen. But it is important that these numbers get out there and people actually see them.
And this is why I created Common Censored, the book where we redacted common sense, the book that brought together the 13 colonies to fight off British tyranny, begging the question, is a revolution against tyranny even possible when the public commons is stifled and suppressed? That's what they're doing. They're preventing people from being able to talk about these important issues. So you guys can check this out, watch the rest of this. Not trying to infringe on Jeremy's copyright. Just want to send you guys over there so you can hear more about that, more with Shapiro, more with Joe Rogan and Elon Musk. Let's hop over to our next topic, which is an interesting one. It turns out that today is the anniversary of Nikola Tesla's birth. So this is from Anti-Censorship at Truth Scant on X. Happy birthday, Nikola Tesla, born July 10th, 1856. Food for thought. Tesla's largest donor was one of the 3 men who died on the Titanic. Since we talked about the Titanic yesterday, I thought this might be a good thing to bring up since you guys seemed interested in that. They opposed the Federal Reserve Act being enforced by Senator Aldrich, setting the stage for J.P. Morgan to kick Nikola Tesla off his land and rip down his Wardenclyffe Tower facility. Designed for wireless power transmission, the use of such technology would have helped stop the same bankers from amassing control over the supply, consumption, and source of energy. As an aside, I wonder what Tesla would think of Musk using his name. Well, considering he's using his name for motors that, for electric motors and stuff that are not Tesla style, I don't think he would be too happy about it. So here we have Guggenheim, Strauss, and Astor, three of the competitors who were against the formation of the Federal Reserve, all who were invited on to the Titanic before its maiden voyage, before J.P. Morgan, who owned the White Star Line and owned the Titanic, canceled his own reservation an hour before it set sail. All 3 of these men were aboard the Titanic when it sank. They're featured, with actors playing them in the Titanic movie. John Jacob Astor was Tesla's wealthiest and most generous investor. He invested $100,000 in 1899 for Tesla to, as he understood it, further develop and produce a new lighting system. Tesla instead used the money to fund his Colorado Springs experiment. So I did a little research, not really research. I just asked Brave AI if this is true, if any of these guys actually funded Tesla. And it turns out that, John Jacob Astor IV funded Nikola Tesla for $100,000 in the Nikola Tesla Company, which was used to fund Tesla's Colorado Springs experiments. It's interesting because you hear all the time about how Westinghouse and JP Morgan were involved with backing Tesla, but nobody ever talks about John Jacob Astor funding Tesla. So it's pretty interesting that it turns out that this guy was involved with Tesla, and maybe they don't talk about it to prevent people from realizing what actually happened with the Titanic and to draw the connection that it had to Tesla being funded and his downfall. I found another post over on Reddit. Did J.P. Morgan build the Titanic to kill off the competition and form the Federal Reserve? The coincidences are amazing, but you're not allowed to notice coincidences. In 1898, a man named Morgan Robertson penned a book titled Wreck of the Titan about a luxury liner deemed unsinkable that was going too fast in the northern Atlantic in April and hit an iceberg, killing most everyone on board due to lack of lifeboats. True. A little bit of ancient, a little bit of old school predictive programming. 14 years later, this fictional book would play out in real life exactly down to the name with the wreck of the Titanic. But this time it would have major political implications. Some of the wealthiest men in the world were on that ship, and some were opposed to the Federal Reserve and central banks. Fact, J.P. Morgan funded/built the Titanic. Fact, J.P. Morgan was booked on the voyage but canceled at the last second. Fact, friend of J.P. Morgan, Milton Hershey, also canceled at the last moment and survived to build the Hershey food empire. Fact, there were no red flares on board to signal to any boats for rescue, only white flares that signal a party and that everything is okay. Yeah, the USS Californian was sent out to park in the ice floe with thousands of sweaters and blankets in a move seemingly to rescue people when they seem to have known that this was going to happen. But people swapped out the flares on the Titanic, getting rid of the red flares, bringing on the white flares, and then they took the key to the compartment that held the binoculars to look for icebergs as well. So when the Titanic hit the iceberg, they launched the flares that they did have, which were supposed to signal the USS Californian to come over and rescue, which was sitting just over the horizon. But no, they launched the white flares saying, "We're partying, guys, whoop, whoop, whoop." And the USS Californian did not intervene as it was intended, and tons of people died. All part of a conspiracy, in my opinion, to kill the competition against the Federal Reserve and to make money off of the damaged Olympic, which I think was sunk in place of the Titanic. And the Titanic potentially continued sailing for decades after that as the Olympic. Fact, it was the first ship of its kind with the ability to seal decks electromagnetically, which could also seal people below deck. Fact, the captain, Edward Smith, was one of the most decorated captains of his time and would have been totally out of character by avoiding precautions. Fact, the author of the book was poisoned to death a couple years after the Titanic sank, the Wreck of the Titan book. Fact, Federal Reserve was formed the very next year, April 12th, 1912 was the year with the day that the Titanic sank, and then December 23rd, 1913 was when they passed the Federal Reserve Act. Fact, Astor family was one of the richest families in the world, and John Astor III opposed the Federal Reserve. John Jacob Astor IV, the richest man in the world at the time, and a friend of Nikola Tesla and an outspoken opponent of the creation of the Federal Reserve, was an outspoken opponent of the Federal Reserve. Astor gained his wealth in part as a real estate builder, investor, and inventor. Other prominent Federal Reserve detractors, such as Benjamin Guggenheim and Isa Strauss, also died on board. Did J.P. Morgan get the idea of how to kill off the opposition to the Federal Reserve from a book written 14 years prior? This book, titled The Titan, Wreck of the Titan, published 14 years before the Titanic sank, and look at the similarities. Did they hatch a plan at Jekyll Island to build a ship to eliminate the competition? Similarities to the Titanic. And there's a whole bunch of additional information between comparing the Titan in the book Wreck of the Titan to the Titanic. So links will be in the description if you want to look more into this after the fact, but I thought it was a pretty interesting story. From last year, nonetheless, pretty neat. From Curiosity Vault on YouTube, 2 bodies and $87 million on board a narco submarine off Colombia's coast. They're using submarines to traffic people and drugs. This is nuts.
The Colombian Navy made a bone-chilling discovery after intercepting a 49-foot narcotic submarine floating aimlessly off Colombia's Pacific West coast. Contrary to the usual, they were met with no resistance, and after climbing on board, discovered almost $100 million worth of contraband, 2 dead sailors, and 2 more likely glad to have been caught. This is the story of the Ghost Submarine.
Crazy, man. Truth is stranger than fiction.
In March of 2023, a small submarine carrying 4 crew members embarked on a treacherous journey up the Pacific coastline of South and Central America. Departing directly from the dense jungles along Colombia's Pacific West coast, the submarine was likely en route to Mexico, a journey spanning more than 2,000 miles or 3,200 kilometers. However, this was no ordinary submarine. On board was 2.6 tons of cocaine, amounting to more than 6 million doses, with a street value of more than $87 million. This was a narco submarine, designed to evade authorities. More on this story shortly. The narco submarine, also called a drug sub, is a custom-built semi- or fully submersible vessel used by South American drug smugglers to transport narcotics into the United States, Mexico, and other parts of Central America. There are actually 3 main types of narco submarine. The first and most common is the LPV, or low-profile vessel. They sit just above the waterline and can carry a modest maximum load of up to 10 tons of contraband.
My dad was fishing in Florida last year, and on his way back into the to the harbor or whatever, He saw one of these submarines, seemingly, this short little sub surrounded by a couple security vessels down in Florida. It seemed like they were making a bust on some kind of trafficking operation using one of these subs. Shout out to Jack Frost 44, who just started following our channel on Rumble 5 minutes ago. Jack Frost, thanks for being here. Nice to meet you.
The second most common is a semi-submersible. Using a snorkel to recycle fresh air, they can travel completely submerged and carry a load similar to their low-profile counterpart. With only a few having ever been seen by authorities, the rarest narco submarine is the fully submersible. In 2000, this half-built 100-foot fully submersible submarine was discovered in a small town on the outskirts of Bogota. Equipped with GPS and the ability to dive up to 30 feet, or more than 9 meters under the ocean surface, according to Colombian officials, it could carry a whopping 200 tons of contraband. The genesis of the drug sub can be traced all the way back to the 1980s, when the method of choice was the Go Fast boat. The Go Fast boats transported hundreds of millions of dollars of narcotics through the Caribbean and onto the United States. Speeds of up to 90 miles or 150 kilometers per hour made them the ideal mode of transport for South and Central American cartels looking to export their product. However, with the technological advancements in radar and improvements to counter tactics by the US Coast Guard and other enforcement agencies, smugglers were forced to innovate to stealthier methods. In 1988, an early example of a drug submarine was found abandoned off the coast of Florida. Primitive in design, it was built to be submerged, then towed behind what would appear to the unsuspecting eye as a regular fishing boat.
Boom. So yeah, this is happening. They're smuggling drugs and people using these little subs. Just good stuff to know as we hurtle forward through this chaotic time. Let's jump over to our next topic. This was posted by Fresh Peach at Fresh Peach Life on X. Exactly spot on, sir. This is what they mean by democracy. This is Lenin on democracy. Quote, in capitalist society, we have a democracy that is curtailed, wretched, false. A democracy only for the rich, for the minority. The dictatorship of the proletariat. The period of transition to communism will, for the first time, create democracy for the people, for the majority, along with the necessary suppression of the exploiters of the minority. Communism alone is capable of providing really complete democracy, and the more complete it is, the sooner it will become unnecessary and wither away of its own accord. So yeah, Lenin on point talking about how communism or how when they say democracy, the leftists, what they really mean is communism. So I thought that was a good little thing to show you guys, considering the intro of the show today, all about democracy being used to usurp control of usurp the Congress and the will of the people with the protections of the Constitution by just allowing Congress to do whatever the hell they want. Let's jump over to our next topic, and for this one, we're going to have to terminate the YouTube feed because we're going to get into the jib-jab type stuff. So let me post a link over here on YouTube for anybody that happens to be watching over there. I see 3 of you. It's probably Mama Mac, Crazy Bee, and maybe Jetlag. Okay, guys, we're going to kill the YouTube feed metaphorically. Of course, FBI is ASSO. Click that link. Join us over on Rumble where the water is warm and where we can speak freely. If you can't make it, sorry to have to ditch you, but we'll catch you on the flip side. I forgot to say also that it is indeed Hump Day today.
Hump Day!
So yeah, this is our Wednesday episode. All right, guys, we're killing the YouTube feed. Until next time.